The sandwich was nothing special. Turkey and Swiss from the deli across the street. Same thing I'd been eating every Tuesday for the past 3 years. I was sitting in my car in the company parking garage, engine off, windows cracked just enough to let in the cool November air. 12:15 on a Tuesday. Marketing reports due by 3. Nothing remarkable about any of it. Then my phone buzzed. WhatsApp notification. Natalie. An audio file. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. I figured she'd sent me something funny. Maybe a voice note about dinner plans or complaining about her coworker Reagan again. Natalie was always sending me random stuff during the day. Little moments she wanted to share. That's what marriage is, right? The accumulation of small things. I pressed play. 2 women talking. One was definitely Natalie. The other voice was younger, sharper. I didn't recognize it immediately. He'll never find out. Are you sure? He's too trusting. That's his weakness. Laughter. Both of them laughing. At me. When are you planning to do it? After the holidays, when all the documents are ready. The recording cut off mid-sentence. Incomplete. Accidental. She'd meant to send it to someone else. I sat there in my car, turkey sandwich forgotten in my lap, staring at the phone screen. The timestamp glowed back at me. 12:17 p.m., November 14th. Here's the thing about me that Natalie never understood. She thought I was trusting. She confused that with something else entirely. See, I spent 8 years in the Marines before I ever set foot in a corporate office. 8 years learning that the first person to react is usually the first person to lose. Intelligence gathering. Pattern recognition. Waiting for the right moment. I didn't panic. I didn't text back. I didn't call. Instead, I screenshotted the message with the timestamp. I forwarded the audio to my personal email, the one she knew about. Then I forwarded it to a secondary email I'd set up years ago for fantasy football that she had no idea existed. I deleted the forwarding evidence from my sent folder. Then I marked the message as unread. My hands were steady the entire time. My mind was already calculating. Documents, after the holidays. That gives me approximately 6 weeks. I came home that evening like nothing had happened. Kissed her on the cheek when she met me at the door. Complimented the chicken she'd made for dinner. Watched her face when she checked her phone during our meal. Watched for that flicker of realization. That moment of panic when she'd notice her mistake. Nothing. Either she hadn't realized what she'd done, or she was better at this than I'd given her credit for. "Everything okay?" she asked, catching me looking at her. "Long day," I said. "Henderson's breathing down my neck about the Q4 projections." She nodded sympathetically, reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Her wedding ring caught the light. "Poor baby. Want me to draw you a bath after dinner?" "That'd be nice." I smiled at her. She smiled back. 2 people playing a scene neither of us knew the other was rehearsing. Day 2, and still nothing. No mention of the audio, no nervous glances, no sudden deletion of the message from her end. That night, after she'd fallen asleep, I sat in my home office with the door closed and started a private journal on an encrypted app I downloaded to my phone. First entry, November 15th. Something is wrong. I need to find out what documents means before the holidays. I need to identify the second voice. I need to understand the full scope of whatever she's planning. 6 weeks, maybe less. I can't afford to make assumptions. I have to know. Over the next 2 weeks, I didn't snoop on her phone. Too risky. If she caught me, she'd know I was onto her, and whatever advantage I had would evaporate. Instead, I started paying attention to the patterns I'd been ignoring for months. Her gym schedule. She used to go every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. like clockwork. Now it was all over the place. Tuesday evenings, Sunday mornings, random slots that didn't fit any consistent routine. "Changed your workout routine?" I asked her one night, keeping my voice casual. Yeah, I'm trying something new. The evening classes are more challenging. She didn't look at me when she said it. Kept scrolling through her phone, the work dinners. They'd started about 3 months ago. Client thing, she'd say, or team building with the new hires. I'd never questioned it because why would I? I trusted her. 7 years of marriage, and I'd never had a reason to doubt. Another dinner tonight? You know how it is. New developments going up all over South Austin. Gotta wine and dine the buyers. The phone calls in the other room. She'd always been casual about calls before. Answer them right in front of me, put them on speaker sometimes. Now she'd glance at the screen and walk into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. Everything okay? I'd ask when she came back. Just Reagan being dramatic. You know how she is. I knew how she was. I was starting to wonder if I knew Natalie at all. The hardest part wasn't the suspicion. It was the acting. Every morning I'd wake up next to her, feel her warm body against mine, and have to pretend that everything was normal. That I wasn't counting the minutes until I could get to my car and listen to that recording again, searching for clues I might have missed. "You're quiet this morning," she said one day over breakfast. "Everything okay?" "Just thinking about work stuff. The Henderson account is giving me headaches." "You work too hard, babe." She reached over, squeezed my hand. "We should take a vacation after the holidays, just the two of us. Maybe go somewhere warm." "That sounds nice." I wondered if she was already picturing that vacation with Grant instead of me. I wondered how long she'd been rehearsing these little moments of wifely affection, practicing her lines like an actress preparing for a role. Day 5 brought the first concrete evidence. We had a shared Amazon account, had since we got married 7 years ago. I logged in on my work computer during lunch, not really expecting to find anything. Just checking. Order history, scroll down, scroll down. There. 4 months ago. Lingerie. Not the comfortable stuff she usually wore, but the kind of thing you'd see in a magazine. Lace, red and black. The kind of thing a woman buys when she wants to impress someone. I'd never seen it. Shipped to an address I didn't recognize. A UPS store mailbox across town. I stared at the screen for a full minute, that cold feeling spreading through my chest. This wasn't paranoia anymore. This was pattern recognition. This was evidence. I screenshotted the order, emailed it to my secondary address, and closed the browser. Day 8, Saturday morning. Natalie was sleeping in after a late work dinner the night before. "Hey, I'm gonna throw in some laundry," I called up the stairs. "You need anything washed?" "My gray coat could use a cleaning," she mumbled back. "Thanks, babe." The gray coat. Her favorite. The one she wore to client meetings and dinners. In the inside pocket, I found a receipt from the Driscoll Hotel. Downtown Austin. One of the nicest hotels in the city. Lunch for 2 at their restaurant. $187.47, dated 3 weeks earlier. I remembered that day. I'd asked her how her dentist appointment went when she got home, and she'd complained about a minor cavity they'd found. "Going to need a filling next month," she'd said, shaking her head. She'd been eating $200 lunches downtown while I thought she was getting her teeth cleaned. I sat down on the laundry room floor back against the dryer, staring at that receipt. $200. That's not a casual lunch. That's wine. That's appetizers and entrees and dessert. That's 2 people taking their time, lingering over conversation, enjoying each other's company in one of the nicest hotels in the city. How many times? How many dentist appointments and late meetings had actually been afternoons in hotel restaurants? Or worse, hotel rooms. I photographed the receipt, put it back exactly where I'd found it, and finished the laundry like nothing had happened. That night, I lay awake while she slept beside me. Her breathing was steady, peaceful. The breathing of someone with nothing on their conscience, or the breathing of someone who'd gotten very good at compartmentalizing. "Who are you?" I thought, staring at the ceiling. "Who have you been all along? And how did I miss it? Day 12. We were eating dinner, takeout Thai, her choice, when I decided to run a test. Hey, I've been thinking, I said, pushing pad Thai around my plate. We should probably update our wills. It's been, 5 years since we looked at them? I watched her face, watched every micro-expression, the way her jaw tightened, the subtle shift in her eyes. She went pale for just a second, then recovered with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That stuff is so morbid. Can we talk about it later? Sure, just thought. Oh, I forgot to tell you about Brooke's birthday party next month. We need to figure out what we're getting her. She changed the subject so fast I almost got whiplash. Documents, legal documents, wills, divorce. That night, I called my brother Kevin. He's a family law attorney in Houston, 42 years old, been through his own brutal divorce about 8 years back. If anyone would understand what I was dealing with, it was him. I didn't tell him everything. Not yet. Just hypotheticals. Hey Kev, random question for you. Shoot. If someone suspected their spouse was, I don't know, planning something financially, what would you tell them to do? There was a pause on the line. Kevin knows me too well. Dylan, who's asking? Just curious. Work friend going through some stuff? Another pause. Longer this time. Tell your work friend to document everything. Screenshots, photos, dates, times, everything. Tell them not to confront. That's important. You lose your advantage the second they know you're onto them. Tell them not to move out of the house no matter how bad it gets. And for God's sake, don't do anything that could be used against them later. Texas is a community property state. Things can get ugly fast. Thanks, Kev. Dylan? Yeah? Call me if you need anything. Day or night, I mean it. He knew. Of course he knew. You don't ask hypotheticals like that unless you're living them. 2 weeks in, and I still couldn't identify the second voice on the recording. I'd listened to it probably 50 times by then, always with headphones, always late at night or during my lunch break when Natalie was far away. The voice was younger than Natalie's 36 years. Sharper. There was something distinctive in the way she pronounced certain words. A slight clip to her consonants, a laugh that cut through the air like glass breaking. Then came the holiday party. December 1st. Natalie's co-worker was hosting at her house in Westlake. Big place, too many Christmas lights, the kind of party where everyone drinks too much wine and pretends to like each other. You sure you want to go? Natalie asked as we got ready. I know how much you hate these things. Nah, it'll be good to put faces to names. You talk about these people all the time. She gave me a look I couldn't quite read, then went back to doing her makeup. We arrived around 7. The house was packed. Real estate people love their networking. I shook hands, made small talk about interest rates and housing markets and whatever else these people talked about at parties. But mostly I listened. Every female voice in that room, every laugh, every casual comment. 2 hours in, I heard it. The laugh first. That sharp, distinctive sound. Then the voice. Oh my God, you're so bad. I turned, trying to look casual, and there she was. Reagan Wells. Natalie's co-worker from the accounting department. The one she described as annoying and trying too hard. The one she said she couldn't stand. They were across the room together, heads close, sharing something private. Natalie's hand on Reagan's arm. Reagan whispering something that made Natalie cover her mouth to stifle a laugh. Not enemies, not even just colleagues. Close. Too close. He'll never find out. Are you sure? I circulated the room, grabbed a beer. Eventually made my way over to them, smile firmly in place. Ladies, having fun? Natalie's face lit up. Her public face, the one she wore for social occasions. Babe, you remember Reagan from my office. Of course, I extended my hand. Good to see you again. Reagan shook it. Her grip was weak, her eyes darting away from mine almost immediately. She laughed too hard at something I said about the weather. She couldn't hold eye contact for more than 2 seconds. So you're the famous Dylan, she said. Natalie talks about you all the time. All good things, I hope. Another nervous laugh. Of course. She just adores you. Guilty. She knew exactly what was going on, and she couldn't look me in the face. Later in the evening, I was getting a drink when I overheard Reagan talking to another woman near the kitchen. I've just been so busy lately, helping a friend with a big transition. What kind of transition? Life stuff. Reagan glanced around, lowered her voice. Starting fresh. You know how it is. Sounds stressful. It is, but she deserves to be happy. My jaw was so tight it hurt. December 4th. 3 days after the party. I took a personal day from work. Told Natalie I had off-site meetings that would run all day. Don't forget to eat something, she said, kissing me goodbye. You always forget when you're in meeting mode. I'll grab something. Instead of going to any meeting, I parked near her office at 11:30 a.m. and waited. At 12:15 she came out. But she didn't head toward any of the usual lunch spots. Instead, she got in her car and drove across town, into a residential neighborhood I didn't recognize. Townhouses. Nice area. Quiet. She parked. Walked to one of the units. The door opened before she could knock. A man. Tall, athletic build, maybe mid-40s. Dark hair, expensive watch glinting on his wrist. He pulled her inside so fast I barely got a look at his face. But I got his license plate. His name was Grant Holloway, 44 years old, commercial real estate broker. Worked at the same firm as Natalie. He was her direct supervisor. I found his LinkedIn in about 30 seconds. Then his Facebook. Then his Instagram. Married. Wife named Jessica. 2 kids, boy and girl, both under 10. Perfect family photos everywhere. Beach vacations, Christmas mornings, daddy-daughter dance at the school gymnasium. Comments from friends about what a great couple they were. What an amazing father Grant was. This wasn't just an affair. This was 2 families being destroyed in secret. That night, I sat in my car in our driveway for 20 minutes before going inside. Couldn't bring myself to walk through that door and pretend everything was normal. Not yet. I gave myself 5 minutes. 5 minutes of real, unfiltered rage. Hit the steering wheel until my palms stung. Let out sounds that came from somewhere deep and primal, sounds I didn't recognize as my own. Then I stopped. Breathed. Counted backwards from 10. Wiped my face. Checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. Adjusted my expression. Went inside and kissed my wife hello like nothing had happened. How were the meetings? Long, boring, standard stuff. Poor thing, want a glass of wine? That'd be great. Now that I had context, I knew what I was looking for. If Natalie was planning to leave me for Grant, there had to be a paper trail. Documents, she'd said. Ready after the holidays. December 7th. Saturday. She was at yoga, or whatever she was actually doing. I went through the filing cabinet in our home office, the one she always handled because I couldn't be bothered with paperwork. Tax returns in one drawer, insurance documents in another, third drawer down, a folder I'd never seen. Inside, printouts about Texas divorce law, specifically community property rules. Handwritten notes in her writing, lists of our assets, retirement account balances, the equity in our house. All of it, cataloged and organized. One note at the bottom, circled in red ink. Attorney consultation, Jan 3rd, Whitman and Associates. The holidays ended January 1st. She was planning to file on the 3rd, less than a month away. But that wasn't the worst of it. Buried among the legal papers was a printed email thread. Between Natalie and Grant. They'd been careless enough to print them out, probably to compare notes. Grant. Jessica's been asking questions. She found a credit card charge I couldn't explain. We need to move faster. If she files first, I'm completely screwed. Natalie. Stay calm. We've been careful. Dylan doesn't suspect a thing. He trusts me completely. Grant. When can we tell them? Natalie. After the holidays, when all the documents are ready, by February, we'll both be free. I read the thread 3 times to make sure I understood what I was seeing. This wasn't just about leaving me. There was a coordinated exit strategy, both of them, planning to divorce their spouses at the same time. Destroy 2 families simultaneously and walk away clean. They'd probably been planning it for months, maybe longer. I could have gone to a lawyer that week, started my own divorce proceedings. But that was predictable. That was what they expected. The betrayed husband, acting on emotion, doing exactly what any normal person would do. But I wasn't a normal person. 8 years in the Marines taught me that the best battles are won before the enemy even knows there's a fight. I asked myself a simple question. Who else is being destroyed by this? Jessica Holloway, Grant's wife. The woman in all those smiling Instagram photos who probably had no idea that her husband was planning to leave her broke and blindsided. She deserved to know. More than that, I needed an ally. Someone who understood what I was going through because they were going through it too. Someone who had just as much reason as I did to want the truth exposed. December 10th. I created an anonymous email account. Something generic, untraceable. Typed out a simple message. Your husband is having an affair with Natalie Parker. I have proof. If you want to talk, respond to this email. I'm not who you think. I stared at it for 5 minutes before hitting send. 2 days of silence. I started to wonder if I'd made a mistake. Maybe she was loyal to Grant. Maybe she'd show him the email and tip him off. Then her response came through. Who is this? How do I know this is real? I sent her one photo. Grant and Natalie at the townhouse. Date stamped. Her response came within minutes. Meet me, tomorrow, public place, come alone. The coffee shop was in Round Rock, far enough from both our neighborhoods that we were unlikely to run into anyone we knew. I got there early, found a corner table with a view of the door, and waited. Jessica Holloway walked in at exactly 2 p.m. Mid-40s, professional appearance, clearly hadn't been sleeping well. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her jaw was set. Not broken. Not falling apart. Angry, she spotted me, the only guy sitting alone at a corner table, hesitated, then walked over. You're the one who sent the email? I am. She sat down across from me, dropping her purse on the chair beside her. Up close, I could see the toll this was already taking. The tight lines around her mouth, the way her hands trembled slightly when she reached for the coffee menu. How did you find out? She asked, keeping her voice low. She sent me an audio file by accident. Didn't realize what she'd done. 2 women talking about me like I was a problem to be solved. Like I was an obstacle. Jessica's expression shifted. Recognition. And you figured out it was Grant. Followed her to his place, got his plates. The rest was easy. Jessica closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, something had changed in her face. The raw pain was still there, but there was something harder underneath it now. I knew something was wrong, she said. For months. Little things. The way he'd guard his phone, the late nights at the office, business trips that didn't quite add up. But every time I asked, he had an explanation. And I wanted to believe him. They're good at lying, better than we ever gave them credit for. She nodded slowly. Show me the recording. I played it right there in the coffee shop, volume low, my phone between us on the table. Watched the color drain from her face when she heard Natalie's voice. He'll never find out. He's too trusting. That's her, Jessica whispered. That's the woman he's been… She stopped, steadied herself. I'm sorry, I just need a minute. Take your time. We sat there in silence for a while. Two strangers bound together by the worst kind of discovery. Then Jessica looked up, and her eyes had that hard look again. He's been hiding money, she said. I found accounts I didn't know existed, hidden behind passwords I'd never seen. He's been moving funds for over a year. How much? I don't know exactly, but it's significant. He's planning to leave me with nothing while he runs off with your wife. I leaned back in my chair, processing. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated financial destruction. So this isn't just infidelity. No, Jessica's jaw tightened. It's a conspiracy. They're protecting each other, planning to cut us loose at the same time so neither of us can warn the other. Two people with every reason to expose them. Two people who'd been pushed to the same edge. What do you want to do? I asked. Jessica's eyes met mine. Cold. Determined. I want them to burn. Something shifted between us in that moment. Two strangers who'd walked into that coffee shop as victims walked out as partners. We had a common enemy now, and that created a bond stronger than friendship. I have documentation, I said. Photos, audio recordings, financial records, everything. So do I, or at least I'm building it. Jessica leaned forward, voice dropping. There's something else you should know. Grant has been telling people that I'm difficult, emotionally unstable. He's been building a narrative, setting up his exit story so when he leaves, everyone will think he was the victim. Natalie's been doing the same thing, telling her friend Reagan that I'm controlling, making herself look like the one who needs rescuing. Jessica's laugh was bitter. They've thought of everything, haven't they? Every angle covered, every excuse preloaded. Almost everything, I said. They didn't think about us finding each other. We met twice more over the next 2 weeks. Once at a park where our kids wouldn't be. She had 2 with Grant. I had none with Natalie. Once at a library in a part of town neither of us frequented. Never anywhere we could be seen by anyone who might know us. The plan took shape. Multiple phases, each building on the last. First, gather more evidence. Everything we could get our hands on. Phone records, financial documents, photographs, enough to be undeniable. Second, consult attorneys separately. Get our legal foundation solid before making any moves. Third, time the reveal for maximum impact. File simultaneously. Serve them at work, in front of their colleagues. Let them find out at the exact same moment that their little scheme had fallen apart. Fourth, protect our assets. Neither of our cheating spouses would profit from the destruction they'd caused. Not if we could help it. Kevin drove down from Houston on a Tuesday evening, 3 days before Christmas. We met at my office after hours, long past the time when anyone else would be around. I showed him everything. The audio, the photographs, the documents, the printed email thread between Natalie and Grant, the evidence of their coordinated exit plan. He went quiet for a long time after he finished reviewing it all. Just sat there, turning pages, occasionally letting out a low whistle. "Dylan," he finally said, "this is extensive. I've had time. I can see that." He set the folder down, looked at me with something like respect. Most guys would have confronted her on day 1, lost their advantage in the first 5 minutes. I'm not most guys. No, you're not. He pulled out a legal pad, started making notes. Okay, here's the situation. Texas is a community property state. That means if she files first and you're caught off guard, she could walk away with half of everything you own, even stuff you brought into the marriage. But, But if you file first, with this evidence, judges have discretion, especially when there's documented proof of adultery and evidence of financial planning that looks a whole lot like fraud. What about the house? You bought it before the marriage? 5 years before. But I added her to the deed 2 years ago, trying to make her feel like it was really ours. I shook my head. Stupid. Not ideal, Kevin admitted. But it's not fatal either. We can argue she contributed nothing to the original equity, especially with... He trailed off, flipping through the folder again. With what? The prenup. You signed one, right? 7 years ago? I'd almost forgotten about it. We'd signed it before the wedding. Natalie had been the one to bring it up, actually. She'd insisted she didn't want my money, that she wanted to build our wealth together from scratch. At the time, I thought it was romantic. Proof that she loved me for me, not for what I could provide. Funny how the things that made you fall in love with someone can turn out to be the things that were fooling you all along. Yeah, we did. Kevin pulled out his phone, typed something. Send me a copy, tonight if you can. I found it in the same filing cabinet where Natalie kept her secret divorce folder. The irony wasn't lost on me. Her plans for destroying our marriage sitting right next to the document that might save me from that destruction. I scanned it that night after she went to sleep, uploaded it to an encrypted cloud server, and sent Kevin the link at 2 a.m. His response came at 2:15. There's a clause in here you might have forgotten about. Section 7, paragraph C. In the event of proven infidelity by either party, the unfaithful party forfeits all claims to appreciation of premarital assets. Your house has appreciated about $300K since you got married. If we can prove her affair, which we absolutely can, she gets none of it. She basically wrote her own penalty clause. This is huge, Dylan. I read the message 3 times. Then I smiled for the first time in weeks. She'd been so eager to prove she wasn't a gold digger that she'd protected me from herself. The universe has a sense of humor sometimes. December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas. Natalie left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. Just sitting there, screen glowing, logged into her personal email. I almost didn't look. Almost walked past it. Some part of me that still wanted to believe this was all a mistake, some bad dream I'd wake up from. But I stopped. And I looked. An email to Grant. Sent that morning. With an attachment. I opened the attachment. A signed lease agreement for an apartment in Seattle, Washington. 2 bedrooms. Nice building. Move-in date, February 15th. They weren't just leaving us. They were relocating, starting over 2,000 miles away, far from the wreckage of the families they were about to destroy. This changed everything. If they ran before the divorces were finalized, pursuing them legally would become exponentially harder. Different state, different jurisdiction, everything more complicated. I photographed the screen, sent the images to my secondary email, and was sitting at the kitchen table reading the news on my phone by the time she came out of the shower. "What do you want for breakfast?" she asked, toweling off her hair. "Whatever you're making." I called Jessica that night from my car in the garage. They're planning to move to Seattle, February. Silence on the line. We have less time than we thought. The next few weeks were a careful dance of preparation and performance. I started protecting assets. Following Kevin's advice, I opened accounts Natalie didn't know about. Began routing a portion of my paycheck into them. Nothing illegal, nothing that would look like I was hiding funds, just establishing resources I could access if everything fell apart. I documented everything we owned jointly. Photographed jewelry, electronics, artwork, anything of value. Built a paper trail of every asset. Meanwhile, Jessica was doing her own preparation. Downloading financial records, bank statements, investment account summaries. building a case for forensic accounting of Grant's hidden money. December 28th. I planted a voice-activated recorder in my home office, legal in Texas, one-party consent state, meaning I only needed my own permission to record conversations happening in my own house. 3 days later, December 31st, I got exactly what I needed. Natalie was in the office making a phone call. She thought I was in the living room watching football. I was, at least the TV was on and I was sitting in front of it. But my attention was elsewhere. Through the thin walls of our house, I could hear her voice. Muffled, but audible. I held my breath, straining to make out the words. Her voice came through clear on the recording I retrieved later. Dylan is clueless. He still thinks everything's fine between us. He still thinks I'm happy. A pause while Grant said something on the other end. Then, I know. After I file, I'll tell him everything. By then, it'll be too late for him to do anything about it. Just trust me. By February, we'll both be starting over. Fresh. Free. Her own words. Admitting premeditation. Time-stamped and recorded. I played it back 3 times that night, after she'd gone to bed. Each time, I felt something different. The first time, vindication. The second time, sadness. The third time, nothing at all. Just cold, clear focus. I saved 3 copies. Emailed 2 of them to different addresses. Locked the original recording in my desk drawer. The evidence was complete. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait. Christmas arrived like a performance we'd been rehearsing for months. We hosted our annual dinner. Both our families, her mother and sister, my parents, everyone gathered around the table I'd bought before I ever met her, eating off plates we'd picked out together during our first year of marriage. I played my part perfectly. The loving husband, the gracious host. I even bought her an expensive designer watch she'd mentioned wanting months ago. Watched her tear up when she opened it. "You're too good to me," she whispered, pulling me into a hug. "I love it." "I love you," I said. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Her sister Brooke pulled me aside later that evening, while Natalie was showing her mother something on her phone. "Hey, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Is everything okay with you two?" She was studying my face, searching for something. "Natalie's been different lately, distracted. I keep catching her on her phone like she's waiting for something important." This was the moment. I could have told her everything right then. Blown it all open at the Christmas dinner table, with family all around, with no chance for Natalie to spin her version of events. But that wasn't the plan. "I think she's just stressed about work," I said evenly. "Big project coming up. You know how real estate can be." Brooke didn't look convinced, but she didn't push it either. I filed the conversation away. Brooke was observant. She saw things other people missed. She might be useful later, or, at the very least, she'd be a witness to Natalie's behavior during the final weeks. My mother pulled me aside later that evening, too, while I was refilling the wine glasses. "You seem tense, honey. Is everything all right?" "I'm fine, Mom. Just tired." She studied my face the way only a mother can, looking past the surface to something deeper. "You know you can talk to me. About anything." "I know." I kissed her forehead. "Everything's fine. Promise." Another lie. The list was getting longer every day. New Year's Eve. A party at a friend's house. Champagne flowing, confetti ready, everyone counting down to midnight like the turning of a calendar page would actually change anything. I watched Natalie from across the room. She was beautiful in her black dress, laughing at something someone said, checking her phone every few minutes when she thought no one was looking. Texting Grant, probably. Making plans for their new life while I stood there with a drink in my hand, pretending I didn't know. Strange. The things you notice when you're really paying attention. The way she angled her body away from me when she typed. The little smile that crossed her face when she read his responses. The quick flick of her thumb, minimizing the conversation whenever someone walked by. 7 years. 7 years of marriage, and I'd never noticed any of it. Or maybe I had noticed, and I'd just chosen not to see. There's a difference. At midnight, she found me in the crowd, pulled me close, kissed me with what felt like genuine passion, or what I would have believed was genuine passion, a month ago. "This is going to be our year," she whispered against my lips. "I can feel it. Big changes. Good changes." I knew what she meant. Their year. Hers and Grant's. In Seattle, far away from everyone they'd betrayed. "Happy New Year," I said. 4 days. That's all I had to keep pretending. 4 more days of this performance, and then the curtain would come down. January 3rd. D-Day. Natalie had her attorney consultation scheduled for 10 a.m. at the offices of Whitman and Associates. I knew because I'd found the appointment card in her purse 2 weeks earlier. I called in sick to work, drove downtown, parked across the street from the law firm and waited. At 9:55 a.m. she walked in. Professional outfit, confident stride. She looked like a woman who knew exactly what she wanted and was about to take it. She was inside for an hour. I watched the door the entire time, sipping cold coffee, running through contingencies in my head. At 11:02 a.m. she came out, smiling, talking on her phone. The smile of someone who thought they'd already won. She had no idea that while she was in that meeting, my attorney was filing paperwork at the courthouse. January 4th. Both of us filed simultaneously. Jessica and me coordinated down to the hour. 2 petitions, hitting the docket at almost exactly the same moment. Mine included everything: documented evidence of adultery with photographs and dates, violation of the prenuptial agreement with specific clause citations, a request for exclusive possession of the marital home based on the fact that I'd purchased it prior to the marriage, the audio recording, the printed emails, all of it. Jessica's petition was even more devastating. Evidence of adultery, discovery of hidden accounts and assets, a formal request for forensic accounting of all marital finances. Then came the reveal. I didn't tell Natalie myself. That would have been too personal, too emotional. I would have seen her face and some part of me might have wavered. Instead, I let her find out when a process server walked into her office at 2:15 p.m., handed her the papers in front of everyone. In front of Reagan Wells, in front of Grant Holloway. Same time, same floor, Grant got served too. 2 process servers, working in tandem. 2 lives, falling apart at the exact same moment. I was at my desk when my phone started blowing up. Natalie calling, 17 times in a row. I let each one go to voicemail. Then the text started. "What is this? We need to talk. Dylan, please. Pick up the phone. What is happening? Call me back right now. I'm coming home." I waited until the barrage stopped. Then I sent one message. Just one. "You said I was too trusting. You were wrong." Then I silenced my phone, set it face down on my desk, and went back to work. There would be time for confrontation later. Right now, I had the satisfaction of knowing that at that exact moment, in an office across town, 2 people were realizing that everything they'd planned had just fallen apart. I pictured Grant's face when the process server handed him those papers. Pictured him looking across the floor to where Natalie was standing, holding her own set of documents, the color draining from both their faces as they realized this wasn't a coincidence. They'd been so careful, so meticulous, and they'd been undone by a 2-minute voice note sent to the wrong person. The universe definitely has a sense of humor. She burst through the front door at 6:47 p.m. Mascara streaked down her face, eyes wild. "You went through my things." I was sitting in the living room, waiting for her. Calm, patient. "No, you sent me an audio file, by accident, remember?" She stopped. I watched the realization cross her face, the memory of that message, the one she'd meant to send to Reagan. "What audio file?" I picked up my phone from the coffee table, pressed play, let it fill the room. Her own voice, Reagan's voice, laughing about me, planning my destruction. He'll never find out. Are you sure? He's too trusting. That's his weakness. The color drained from her face. She actually staggered back a step, like the words had physical weight. That was taken out of context, she tried. Her voice was shaking now. Reagan is dramatic. I was just venting about work stuff. It wasn't the documents you mentioned, the ones that would be ready after the holidays. I stood up, keeping my voice even. I found them. The divorce paperwork in the filing cabinet, the attorney appointment for January 3rd, the Seattle apartment lease with both your names on it. Silence. And the emails with Grant. About how Jessica was getting suspicious. About how you were handling me. She opened her mouth, closed it. You have 48 hours to move your personal belongings out. My attorney will be in touch about the rest. Then she shifted. The tears came back, harder this time. She reached for me, hands grasping at my shirt. It was a mistake. Dylan, please. Grant manipulated me. He made me think. You have to understand, we can fix this. I love you. I still love you. It didn't mean anything. I removed her hands. Gently, firmly. You've been planning this for months. Maybe years. You coordinated with him to destroy both our families at the same time so you could run off to Seattle together. You opened a secret mailbox to receive things you didn't want me to see. You lied about dentist appointments while you ate $200 lunches at his hotel. Dylan, this isn't a mistake, Natalie. This is who you are. She slept in the guest room that night. I locked the bedroom door for the first time in 7 years. Around 3 a.m., I heard her crying through the wall. Soft, muffled sobs that she probably thought I couldn't hear. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 7 years, that had built a life with her, that had believed in the future we were supposed to have, wanted to go to her, wanted to comfort her, to tell her it would be okay. But I stayed in bed, stared at the ceiling, listened to her cry. She'd made her choices. Now she was living with them. The next 2 months were a blur of depositions, attorney meetings, and legal maneuvering. Grant tried to reach out, called from unknown numbers at all hours, finally left a voicemail at 2 a.m. Dylan, listen to me. We need to talk man to man. What happened between Natalie and me? It's complicated. You don't understand the whole situation. Don't blow up both our families over this. Think about what you're doing. I saved the voicemail. More evidence of awareness. More evidence of participation. The forensic accountants had a field day with Grant's finances. Hidden accounts in 2 states. Money moved through shell companies he'd set up 3 years earlier. He'd been planning his exit longer than anyone realized. Word spread at the brokerage. An affair between a supervisor and subordinate conducted on company time using company resources. HR opened an investigation. Grant was placed on administrative leave pending review. Natalie got caught up in the fallout, too. Her Seattle apartment lease had been signed using her company email address. Policy violation. She received a formal written warning. Not fired, but close. Reagan Wells reached out. She found me on LinkedIn. A message request. Can we talk? Please. I need to explain something. We met at a restaurant near my office. She looked smaller than she had at the Christmas party. Scared. I didn't know what I was getting into, she said, before I could even ask. Natalie told me you were controlling, that you made her feel trapped, that Grant was helping her escape a bad situation. I believed her. And now? Now I've seen everything, the court filings, the evidence, the stuff about the hidden money. She shook her head. She played me too. I was just part of her cover story. The friend who could vouch for her if anyone asked questions. Would you be willing to testify About what she told you? What you knew? Reagan hesitated, looked down at her hands, then nodded. The depositions were brutal. Hours of questions. Every detail picked apart. Natalie's attorney tried to paint me as paranoid and controlling. My investigation of her was framed as obsessive stalking behavior. My attorney presented the timeline. Everything I documented was after receiving the accidental audio recording. I wasn't stalking. I wasn't invading privacy. I was protecting myself from someone who'd explicitly stated, in her own words, on a recording she made herself, that she was planning to deceive me. The prenup was contested. Natalie's team claimed she'd signed it under duress. She was young, they said. Naive. Didn't understand what she was agreeing to. My attorney produced evidence that Natalie had hired her own attorney to review the document before signing. That she'd specifically requested the infidelity clause because she wanted to prove she wasn't in it for the money. The prenup stood. During Natalie's deposition, she was asked about the Seattle apartment. She admitted Grant had been paying half the deposit. But when pressed about who would be living there, she hesitated. My attorney produced the lease. 2 names on it: Natalie Parker and Grant Holloway. She'd been planning to move in with him before either divorce was finalized, while still legally married, using marital funds for a deposit on a love nest 2,000 miles away. The judge took detailed notes. Things started to unravel for them faster than either of us had predicted. Grant's attorney tried to negotiate a settlement, a quick, quiet divorce with minimal public exposure. Jessica's attorney refused. Every hidden account, every transferred asset, every financial deception was going to be documented in court records. Public records. The kind of records that future employers and business partners could find. Natalie tried something similar with me. Her attorney reached out with a proposal. Walk away clean, split everything 50-50, no need to air dirty laundry in open court. Kevin laughed when he showed me the offer. They're scared. They know what you have, and they know the prenup is going to devastate them. This is a Hail Mary. What do you recommend? We go to trial. Make them explain on the record exactly what they did and why. That's what we did. The trial lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of testimony, cross-examination, and evidence presentation. 3 weeks of watching Natalie squirm as every lie she'd told was documented and dissected. Reagan Wells testified. Explained how Natalie had recruited her as a confidant, feeding her stories about an abusive husband who was making her life miserable. Reagan's voice shook as she described the moment she realized she'd been manipulated, that she'd been complicit in something she never fully understood. The audio recording was played for the court. Natalie sat there, pale and still, listening to her own voice describe me as an obstacle to be overcome. He's too trusting. That's his weakness. The judge listened, took notes, asked clarifying questions that made Natalie's attorney visibly uncomfortable. Grant's trial, running simultaneously in another courtroom, was going even worse for him. The forensic accountants had found everything. Accounts in 3 different states, money moved through business entities that existed only on paper, a systematic effort to hide nearly $500,000 from his wife of 15 years. His attorney argued that the money was legitimate business savings, protected assets that didn't belong to the marriage. The judge didn't buy it. Neither did the jury. Jessica's divorce wrapped up first. The forensic accounting had been devastating for Grant. Hidden accounts totaling over $400,000. Money siphoned from their joint finances for years. A clear pattern of financial deception. The judge awarded Jessica 65% of all marital assets, citing Grant's systematic concealment and misappropriation of community property. He was also ordered to pay her attorney fees. Grant, now unemployed after the brokerage let him go, was forced to sell the townhouse where he'd been meeting my wife. The proceeds went mostly to Jessica. With his finances in ruins, the Seattle plan collapsed. The apartment lease was broken. Grant and Natalie barely spoke anymore. In court filings, they actually blamed each other for the failure of their grand scheme. She came to see me one last time, showed up at the house uninvited, tear-streaked face, desperate. I made a terrible mistake. I know that now. Dylan, I still love you. Give me one more chance. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I looked at her standing in the doorway of the house I'd bought 5 years before I met her. The house she'd cataloged and valued and planned to take half of. You never loved me, I said. You loved what I provided. Security. Stability. The comfortable life. The house in a good neighborhood. The retirement accounts you'd have access to. When something more exciting came along, someone who made you feel special, you didn't hesitate, not for 1 second. That's not true. I think it's time for you to leave. I closed the door. For a long moment, I just stood there in the entryway of my house, the house I'd fought to keep, the house that was finally, completely mine again. I could hear her car starting in the driveway, hear the engine revving, hear the tires on the gravel as she pulled away. And then silence. Real silence. The kind I hadn't experienced in 7 years. I walked through the rooms slowly. The living room where we'd hosted dinner parties. The kitchen where we'd cooked meals together, laughing over glasses of wine. The bedroom where we'd made love and made promises and made plans that were never going to come true. All of it felt different now. Emptier, but also cleaner. Like a wound that had finally been cauterized. I poured myself a drink, sat down on the couch, watched the sun set through the windows. It was over. It was finally, completely over. The final hearing came 6 months after I'd first pressed play on that audio file. 6 months of investigation, documentation, legal maneuvering, and emotional warfare. 6 months of pretending, then confronting, then fighting. 6 months that had changed everything about who I was and what I believed about the people closest to me. The judge ruled in my favor on virtually every point. The house stayed mine. 100% of the premarital equity. The prenup infidelity clause worked exactly as Kevin had predicted. She got nothing from $300,000 of appreciation. Retirement accounts were split 50-50, as required by Texas law, but I'd been adjusting my contributions for months. She got less than she'd been counting on. Personal property. She kept only what she'd brought into the marriage. The expensive designer watch I'd given her for Christmas? I requested it back. The judge agreed. No alimony. She had a job, a career, the ability to support herself. The judge specifically cited her premeditated pattern of deception as a factor in denying spousal support. Natalie sat through the final hearing alone. Grant didn't show. He'd relocated to Dallas weeks earlier, trying to salvage something from the wreckage of his career. When the judge finished reading the ruling, she stared straight ahead. No tears this time. Just emptiness. Outside the courthouse, she walked past me without a word. Didn't look back. Kevin was waiting for me by the car. He put a hand on my shoulder. How do you feel? I thought about it for a moment. Really thought about it. Empty, I said. But the good kind of empty. Like I finally put down something I'd been carrying for too long. That's normal. It'll take time. Yeah. I looked back at the courthouse. Natalie was getting into her car on the other side of the parking lot. Our eyes met for just a second before she looked away. I know. Life moves on. That's what people say, and it turns out they're right. I threw myself into work. Got the promotion I'd been circling for years. Turns out, the clarity that comes from surviving something terrible makes you better at everything else. I started seeing a therapist, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd missed so many signs for so long. I wanted to make sure I never missed them again. Jessica and I stayed in touch. Not romantically. Neither of us was ready for that, and maybe we never would be. But there was a bond there, forged in the worst experience of our lives. We'd grab coffee every few months, compare notes on rebuilding, share war stories about the legal aftermath. "Grant's in Dallas now," she told me one afternoon, 6 months after the final ruling. "Starting over at some small firm. I hear he's struggling." "Good," she laughed. "That's cold." "Maybe, but he earned it." Natalie moved to Phoenix eventually. I heard through mutual acquaintances. Her sister Brooke actually reached out to apologize, said she'd had no idea what Natalie was planning, and felt terrible for not seeing it. I told her it wasn't her fault. Some people are just better at hiding who they really are. 1 year later, I was sitting in a coffee shop near my new office. Promotion had come through 6 months after the divorce finalized, when my phone buzzed with a WhatsApp notification. Unknown number. Long message. "I know you probably won't read this, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. Not just for how things ended. For all of it. For who I was. For what I did to us. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I understand now what I threw away." I read it twice. Thought about responding. Thought about everything we'd been through. 7 years of marriage, 6 months of warfare, and this. A message from someone who probably still didn't understand what she'd really done wrong. I blocked the number, deleted the message, and went back to my coffee. Some messages aren't worth reading twice. I thought about all those mornings I'd woken up next to her, believing in a future that was never going to exist. All those dinners, those conversations, those moments of intimacy that had been performances on her end. All those lies I'd swallowed because I wanted to believe in the person I thought she was. But that was the past. And the past couldn't hurt me anymore. I finished my coffee, paid the bill, and walked out into the Austin sunshine. The air was warm, the sky was clear, and somewhere out there Natalie was starting over in a city where nobody knew her name. She'd get by. She always had. But she'd do it without me. Without my house, without my money, without the comfortable life she'd been planning to steal. And somehow, that was enough. My phone buzzed again. A text from Jessica. "Coffee next week? I have news." I smiled, typed back, "Sure, same place as always?" "You know it. See you then." I pocketed my phone and kept walking. Life goes on. Sometimes it even gets better.